Next, we turn to the idea of creating Jesus worlds, environments both digital and physical that reflect his teachings. From online communities to real-world gatherings, what does it mean to build spaces that carry the values of love, unity, and service? And how do we avoid turning these spaces into institutions, instead keeping them alive, personal, and spiritual? So tell us about a little bit of this vision.
So one of the things Jesus taught me is that he's building a world with every person, whether they're witting or unwitting. Unwitting means you don't even know it's happened to you. You're just going through the experience. And most human experiences are like that. The most deep experiences we have are just experiences, and we're not aware of all the different things we're learning. So much of what I even learn, even though I've got this holistic framework, much of what I learn is unwitting. He just gives me experiences, and I don't know. I'm like the Karate Kid, waxing cars and painting fences, and then later I
Yeah.
realize, oh my goodness, you had me go through these experiences so that I can do this next thing. And nonetheless, what's going to come is winning world building. That's what, so people like those who designed the Marvel Universe or the Wonderful World of Disney, or their authors like J.K. Rowling's, they have, and they actually use that term, world building. They're going to build a world, and then they can describe that world, and they can have themes within that world. So you just described some of the themes that I want in my world. And that's where the power of world building is. You can start saying, oh, so I can treat this like writers and directors do, where I could have a movie that has thematic elements that run throughout the whole thing. So I can pay really attention to how does this movie open up? And so we have terms like the overture. And that's a musical thing that starts at the first, and you're going to hear that throughout the whole, or variations of it, variations on the theme throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. Like in Star Wars, we hear that a lot in Star Wars. A lot of the the Luke's theme, Leia's theme, and they change to minor, and it's a certain variations. And when you get to the epic parts of the story, you always hear it, and it's more bombastic than when you're in a mellow part of
Yes,
the song, right?
yes,
Or
that's right.
the
And
movie.
and God has given us movies as these patterns. And what's coming, he's about to give us, and we're on the cusp of it because they're already coming, technologies that will allow common people to say, oh, I would like my world and my world story to have thematic elements. And just like websites, you'll be able to go look at these websites and say, oh, I want mine to kind of look like that, steampunk. Or in my case, those visual elements hasn't been as important as the story elements. So when you said in this intro, unity, love, those are things I want to have expressed. In fact, one of my main one is rest, because I told you when I was born, I didn't like this word, and I never have. There's just, and you know the things I don't like about it? It's so burdensome. And Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you. And then he said, I will give you rest. And that's one of Jesus's nicknames. His name is rest. Well, that's one of the themes. So if you looked at my world, and you can actually visit my world, but right now it'd be like visiting somebody who's storyboarding Star Wars. So you're like, oh, I'm ready to watch your show. I'm like, okay, well, here it is. It's some cartoons on the wall on a piece of paper with crayon. And you go, okay, so where are we at? And I'd say, well, this is Tatooine. This is Luke, and he's harvesting water on Tatooine. Okay, and then what happens? So that's called storyboarding, and that's what you do.
Giving the context, and you're putting the whole putting the spectator or the audience immersed in that
Yes, yes,
the whole
that's right.
context, right?
And so in 10 years, I finally understand what are some major themes, and there's options. I could show you 20 different themes I could build in, that could be top themes, but rest is one of those. So I can then choose that rest as you could call it an archetype. It's part of my overture that gets played out throughout my world. My world is expressed as a day. So here's the thing God told me as well. We have this thing that's often referred to appropriately as a wheel. So we have, when you look at a clock that has hands, what shape that is. It's round, like what? Like a world. And so we have songs by Journey, Wheel in the Sky keeps on turning. And so the human wheel, Kruger Mellencamp, human wheels turn round and round as the clock keeps the pace. So the idea of a, of a world has to be matched to our human situation, which is everybody on the podcast. Guess what you did? Same thing as me. I'll bet you woke up and your face was on a pillow. Okay, well that's the alpha. That's where your world begins. All right. And where it ends is going to be on that pillow again. So that's omega. That pillow could be called the Jesus pillow. I am alpha and I omega. And everything that happens every minute from the moment you wake up till you go to sleep, well, that's called the Jesus world. And anything that's in your sphere of influence, anything that influences you or that you influence, that's your Jesus world. And it can become more Jesus-y or less Jesus-y. You can have more glory. We talked about high glory or less glory. And so you can repent. You can say, I'm going to put more Jesus. And so that's the framework. You have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I like the way that you're framing that you're talking about, living in this Jesus world and apart from his glory, I think one important aspect that we sometimes overlook probably is that he became flesh. He was born as a human being, and he had to go through all the hardships that you were talking about. The different difficulties that we have in this planet. So I think it's very important that we also beyond the divinity, the divine Jesus that of course he is, we also recognize the human Jesus and that we lived through all those hardships, because that's where we can have that starting point. He was here as a flesh, so we can relate there, and eventually we'll transcend and we're approaching towards him, and we're finally gonna come into an embrace with him. So that's something that we share with him, and that the more that we can understand those traits. I mean, you were saying how to live into this Jesus world. So I see that it also within us to see all the qualities and the traits that he portrayed, as compassion, love. No, I mean, and love encompasses a lot, but all these fearlessness, courage, and if we take those human aspects of what he taught us, those fruits, let's say, we can, become better and live this life
That
within
is
this
right.
Jesus world,
And
right?
Jesus just taught to me when you started talking, he said, Greg, use your indoor voice. And so I get excited, and he has to remind me, go slow so that you can go fast. Go low to go high. Go like a fool to go wise. Those are the three commandments, special commandments he has for me. So we had a delay, podcast watchers, and I'm fine with delays because Jesus said, yeah, we're going slower. And so I had to slow down. And so one of the crucial elements of building a Jesus world for me has been understanding that he wants um, his principles applied in my life. And in order to do that, he had to make
Mm-hmm.
some movies for me. I mean, he let everybody else watch him. So if you guys have ever seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, Jesus made that for me so that I would understand that is um, the core framework of a Jesus world is the repeating day. And so in that movie, um, Phil would wake up and he started having an existential crisis. Like, what's it all about? Because it just seems so monotonous, repeating. And I'll leave it to you to go to see the trailer if you haven't seen that, fellow watchers. But the point in that movie is that Phil learned to play out his day, the one that just keep repeating. He could just the same things were happening, the same scenes were being played out. He learned to blend it with
Yeah.
more and more love, authentic love, not just lust. So he had that period where he's just like, I'm going to do lust. So
Mm-hmm.
he's trying all the carnal, finite solutions.
Yeah, like the different universes or consequence or paths that he can take, and that's really philosophical. Come to think of it, yeah, I like that you brought that out. And please continue. You were saying,
He changes the thematics. Um, the um, the music of his heart begins to take over his world. So it'd be like, yeah, we got to start with different themes. And so, like I said, you can have themes run throughout your movie. Directors do this. They go, red is our theme. So if you watch certain movies, you'll see red, 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 red coats, red this. That they blend in sound. They do it with music. That's what Jesus can do, and he can blend into your day. A concept that I finally understood is like one of the biggest concepts that I received from him. It's called more Jesus. However much Jesus you have right now and you're used to, guess what? There's always more. Would you like more Jesus? And what happened to me in 2015? People say, what happened in 2015? I got more Jesus, and I liked it, and I got hooked on it. I wanted more.
and it's eternal and everlasting. And that's what you're saying, and that's how I see what you're saying. That every day you get a bit more Jesus, and you become more towards that nature. I mean, because it's a never-ending journey, and that it just augments you it makes you become more godlike. If we can understand that term, it's emanating those qualities that you're talking about, that we have each day can repeat them and enhance them. Because if we don't, and that's what I like about the movie, now that you were referencing to it, that every day he learned something new. Even though he was doing the same things, there was knowledge and wisdom eventually, out of that, those experiences and that path that eventually led towards a better person. And I like that, and I you're referencing a lot to also the hero's journey. And one of the things that I always mention a lot in our conversations in this podcast, that we have to look at our lives as a story, and we have to put ourselves as a hero. And sometimes we're going to be maybe doing even, we're going to have failures, and we're going to err, and maybe even sin. But the way that we overcome that, the way that we repent, and the way that we mend our ways is the path of the hero, because you come down and you understand also that process and that nature, and you want to overcome that nature, and become higher in your love and the way that you bring. So you eventually overcome that, and that's the beauty about God also, in Jesus, that every day is a new day, and every day you have a new opportunity to give more love, to be more grateful and
I
loving
agree.
with everybody.
Yes, and that day has been important to me. I call it the Jesus Groundhog Day. And so it's his day, and I'm going to live it for him. I'm doing vicarious work for Jesus. Um, and so he wants me to live on earth and give up my life. Then I can find it. I want a life, Jesus. So he says, well, give it to me. Okay. And then I do what he wants me to do, or the best that I think he wants me to do, from sunup to sundown, and then I look for him to tell me how to change it. And my Jesus world is going to be way different than anybody else's, because I'm on that extreme. I can find some people that are on the extreme spectrum, and we have a lot in common. But I honor all, and God honors all, the whole spectrum, where people like, well, I could put some more Jesus in my life, and for them, it might just be kindness. They're just like, they're not like, I'm not going to say Jesus more. I'm not going to read scriptures more, but they have that light like I do inside, and it tells them, I'm going to be more kind. Well, that's the nickname of my best friend, my invisible friend, my imaginary invisible friend who is real, whose name is Jesus. And so, yeah, being kind. In fact, I was just posting that to Facebook. I said, there's a candy bar named after my friend. It's his nickname, Kind. Jesus is kind. He's also rest. He's also love. He has many nicknames, but I like to call him Jesus.
On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.